Genesis 21 1-21. As promised by God, Sarah becomes pregnant and bears Abraham a son who is named Isaac. Sarah tells Abraham to send Hagar and Ishmael away, and an angel of God speaks to Hagar in the wilderness. The Lord blessed Sarah, as he had promised, and she became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham when he was old. The birth of Isaac. The Lord blessed Sarah, as he had promised. Then she became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham when he was old. The boy was born at the time God had said he would be born. Abraham named him Isaac. And when Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God had commanded. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. Sarah said, God has brought me joy and laughter. Everyone who hears about it will laugh with me. Then he added, Who could have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. The child grew, and on the day that he was weaned, Abraham gave a great feast. Hagar and Ishmael are sent away. One day Ishmael, whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham, was playing with Sarah's son Isaac. Sarah saw them and said to Abraham, Send this slave and her son away. The son of this woman must not get any part of your wealth, which my son Isaac should inherit. This troubled Abraham very much, because Ishmael was also his son. But God said to Abraham, Don't be worried about the boy and your slave Hagar. Do whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that you will have the descendants I have promised. I will also give many children to the son of the slave woman, so that they will become a nation. He too is your son. Early the next morning, Abraham gave Hagar some food and a leather bag full of water. He put the child on her back and sent her away. She left and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water was all gone, she left the child under a bush and sat down about 100 yards away. She said to herself, I can't bear to see my child die. While she was sitting there, she began to cry. God heard the boy crying, and from heaven the angel of God spoke to Hagar. Why are you troubled about Hagar? Don't be afraid. God has heard the boy crying. Get up, go and pick him up and comfort him. I will make a great nation out of his descendants. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well. She went and filled the leather bag with water and gave some to the boy. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the wilderness of Paran and became a skillful hunter. His mother got an Egyptian wife for him. I do not agree with Sarah's demand. I think Sarah, even though God blessed her as being the mother of Isaac, I think she was a cruel woman, like in the way that she treated Hagar cruelly when Hagar despised her, and even now pretty much abandoning a mom and the child. And her jealousy and the way that she acted really, I guess she took a father away from a son. She separated them. And so to me, that's not a good act. I don't know what she saw when they were playing together that made her decide that, but I just feel like just not knowing all the details, for me, I felt that is not a good act. And Abraham was troubled because, yes, Ishmael is his son too. And if I was Hagar, I would be very devastated. And, and if I was Ishmael growing up, like pretty much where my dad kind of abandoned me and not care for my mom anymore, and she have to be, raise me up alone, that would be, like something that I would not like my dad for. But thank God that, the Bible said that God was with him. So I guess God comforted him and Hagar through the process. But Abraham was very troubled because of that. But God reassured Abraham that it's okay to just listen to his wife in this matter. Of course, he should have asked God in the beginning when his wife offered Hagar to him. Now that, it came to this point, then he was troubled. And now he listened to God about that it's okay, and that God will bless Ishmael, and that God will be with Ishmael. So, and then the angel of God said to Hagar that, your child is crying, comfort him, and that God will be with him, God will bless him. So I think today reading teaches me that when we try to help God, like in our own strength, we mess things up. But even when we mess things up, and even through all that, God worked through our messes. And yes, it's going to result in heartache, and it's going to result in conflict, and it's going to result in a lot of unhappy things. Even in Abraham's story, a separation of his family. But God will be with us through all of that, even with the child that he didn't promise to Abraham, that Abraham conceived through his own volition and own will, trying to get an heir by himself, not following the promise of God. So I think God is very gracious, and that God can work through everything, and God can turn everything to good. Amen.